Hi, this is Dr. Whiting, and today I want to talk to you about what I consider the most ignored epidemic, perhaps worldwide, and that's called systemic candidiasis. Candida, which is a naturally occurring organism found in all human beings, can, under certain circumstances, cause a tremendous amount of side effects. Now, there's hardly any woman alive who hasn't at one time or another in her life experienced a localized vaginal yeast infection. Well, that condition is caused by the Candida albicans organism. Now, what you need to understand about this particular organism is that each one of us carries this organism in our gastrointestinal tract. And as long as everything is equal or balanced, it doesn't seem to cause any harm one way or the other. In fact, inside your gut or intestinal lining, you have another group of organisms called the healthy bacteria. And those healthy bacteria include Acidophilus, Bifidus, a whole variety of various strains. Well, the good guys, the good bacteria, keep the Candida bugs, as it were, in line. They kind of balance each other out. Now, here comes the problem. Whenever we do something or get into a situation where we're damaging or reducing greatly the amount of the healthy bacteria in our gastrointestinal tract, that allows the Candida organism to explosively multiply. Now, under what circumstances might that occur? Well, first of all, when you use antibiotics. And this can be easily illustrated because when most women get that vaginal yeast infection, it's right after taking 10 or 14 days worth of antibiotic. See, the antibiotic destroys all bacteria, not just the bad guys, but it kills the good ones in your intestinal tract as well. And once they've died off, that allows that Candida just to take off, and here we go. And over time, that Candida can filter down through the genitourinary tract and get into the vaginal region where it is nice and warm and moist and dark, and we're off and running. And it starts to multiply, causing a very serious irritation and discomfort. This is what we call a localized yeast infection. And as uncomfortable as it can be, it is much easier treated than its systemic sister. How does the yeast become systemic? And when we say systemic, we're talking about it goes throughout the whole body. Well, let's just say you have that vaginal yeast infection, and you get some more severe irritation, and you get a little bleeding. Well, if you've got a little blood exchange, there's a very short step for that Candida to get in your bloodstream. Another circumstance might be if you have a disorder of your colon, such as colitis, diverticulitis. Those suffering from Crohn's disease frequently have this problem because the Crohn's situation can frequently attack the small and more especially the large intestine or colon. Anytime that you get this Candida organism from the intestinal tract into your bloodstream, we are off and running, and you are on your way to developing what's called a systemic yeast infection or systemic candidiasis. Common sites for the Candida to take up residence and start to multiply and grow into colonies are the stomach, the liver, the lungs, the bronchioles, the sinuses, and even the brain. And here at our research center, we have seen many individuals who had a large overgrowth of systemic yeast in brain fluid. And some of the symptoms of systemic candidiasis, you see, there's no medical test for this, because anytime you go somewhere and you get tested for the presence of Candida, well, we all test positive for it because we all have it. And when it stays home where it belongs, we're good. But when it gets into the bloodstream, it can cause all sorts of symptoms and side effects. That sort of spacey, disconnected feeling, fatigue, constipation, altering with diarrhea, and back and forth, a tingling in the hands and feet for no apparent reason, headaches for no reason, reduced or poor memory, especially short-term memory, repeated vaginal yeast infections in problems in women, and repeated prostatitis or prostate infections in men. In fact, there are dozens of symptoms that can be associated with systemic yeast problems. And if you'd like to take our self-evaluation test for systemic candida to determine your risk factor. I'm going to be telling you how to do that free of charge here in just a few minutes, because I really think this is so important. So stick with us. Now, before we talk about the solution to this problem, and yes, there is a very comfortable, easy to do, safe conclusion to this story, but I want to share with you some of the misconceptions or myths about Candida. First of all, you don't eat Candida. So what you eat will not give you Candida, and what you don't eat or avoid won't take it away. And there are all kinds of diets out there. There's the yeast diet, there's the Candida program, and all of them involve, in most cases, very strict dietary measures. You can't eat this, you can't eat that. About half of the food that we normally eat becomes off limits. And I have counseled many, many ladies especially who have been on this type of diet for years, some of them. And the hour and minute that they go off of that diet, for even one day or one weekend, their symptoms come back full-blown, sometimes even worse than before. And the reason for that is because the diet is really only suppressing the symptoms. It's making the person feel better, but it's not addressing the cause of the problem. It's just addressing the effect. What we want to do is to talk today about eliminating systemic candidiasis from your life once and for all. Now, if you suspect that you have systemic candida, and how would you know? Well, I'll give you some quick general pointers. If you used a lot of antibiotics in your life, when you were younger, or perhaps still are using birth control medications, steroid drugs, have had colon problems such as colitis, diverticulitis, have had repeated vaginal yeast infections, or have had sexual intimate contact with someone who has had a systemic yeast or has a systemic yeast problem. If that fits your description, you might want to take our complete test. And here's how you do that. You go to our website at the Institute of Nutritional Science, and that is www.healthyinformation.com. And there you can download a copy of our Candida evaluation test. You can fill out the form, you can score it yourself, and basically here's the deal. If you score above 120, you probably have a really good chance of having systemic yeast problems, and certainly if you score above 160, it's almost guaranteed. And what are you going to do now if you take that test and you find that you are 180 or 200 or more? Well, fortunately, there's an answer. In the last 30 years of being in alternative medicine and clinical nutrition, I've tried many things for systemic yeast. I've seen many things. I've tested many programs. And the only thing that I've ever been able to find that actually destroys or eliminates the Candida organism in the human body systemically is what we call buffered oral oxygen. You see, the Candida organism is what we call anaerobic. And an anaerobic organism doesn't like oxygen. It likes damp, dark, low oxygen places where it can thrive unnoticed. And by raising the blood oxygen of your body, we can carry that increased blood oxygen to every cell of your body. So it really doesn't matter where the Candida resides, we can get it by increasing the oxygen level of your blood. The program that we developed here at our research center is called the OxyFlush program. And the OxyFlush program is completely outlined in my little booklet on Candida and systemic yeast. Now, you can get a copy of that little booklet at the website that I just gave out, www.healthyinformation.com.